Hey guys, my name's Justin, and today I'm going to be going over the phosphates in detergent ban. So in the early 1970s, the American scientific community began to notice that large algal blooms seemed to be correlated with the use of phosphate detergent. These algal blooms had huge effects on the entire ecosystems of many rivers and lakes, making this topic a hot one in earlier conservation biology. So this is a little background on why phosphates are in detergent. Basically, they're really effective at cleaning, and their ban left actually quite a few people upset about their now pathetic detergents. But that's not to say the ban was a dumb idea. The logic was sound in that removing the flow of phosphorus into waterways would effectively starve the algae and prevent its growth, since phosphorus is a limiting nutrient for them. So this is an explanation on why algae is a problem. Essentially, a sudden spike in algae affects the water's quality and oxygen content in what we call eutrophication. You see, algae grows on the surface of water, and depending on how much phosphorus is available, this growth can span huge areas. They cover the surface of the water, block sunlight from reaching deeper plants, and cause them to stop producing oxygen down there. Meanwhile, at the surface, algae is hogging all the sunlight, having a party, producing tons of oxygen, and making the surface of the water excessively oxygenated. You can imagine this contrast between oxygen levels in the top and bottom water causes lots of fish and plants to die, and the water quality to degrade. And in this figure by Dodds et al., we can see that this is a big cause and effect system that ends with humans having to deal with ruined recreational areas, loss of agriculture and food supplies, etc., all of which contributes to a decline in both our physical and mental health. Bad stuff. So it makes sense that we'd want to stop eutrophication. But did the ban actually work? Well, no. It was a good effort, but what we didn't realize is that not much phosphorus is contributed to the water through detergents. So this original figure shows on the x-axis the percentage of phosphorus being loaded into influent water because of detergent relative to the amount of phosphorus entering the water from all influent sources. For future reference, it needs to be noted that basic treatment plants are vastly incapable of filtering out phosphorus. Now on the y-axis, we see the different studies from which the data came from. Each study took place in its own specific body of water mentioned on the side here, but we can see that on average, only about 12.4% of phosphorus is entering the waterways from detergent as an effluent source. Now let's take a look at how much of a P-load decrease we'd need to actually reverse eutrophication. This original figure shows relatively how much of a water quality improvement we can see based on how much of a percent P-load decrease we have. The three separate studies here show that about 78% decrease in P-load effluent leads to reversal of eutrophication. Way more than detergent has been putting in. So this explains why the ban didn't really work. Detergent put in so little phosphorus that banning it wasn't enough to reverse eutrophication. Well, if detergent isn't putting in phosphorus, what is? The answer? Non-point sources. These are sources of phosphorus that are widespread and difficult to contain because they don't come from a single source like a treatment plant. Detergent is a point source because common households have water systems that eventually lead to treatment plants that go to the water. We can see in the figure here from the USGS that point sources contribute only a small portion of phosphorus to the water. And this is backed up by Wasley's figure here as well. So what can we do? Well, if we look at the effectiveness of the ban removing P-load compared to advanced treatment plants removing P-load, the answer is pretty clear. In this original figure, the data from multiple studies are compiled to show that treatment can decrease effluent P-load by an average of 75%, while the ban could only do so by about 11%. Now the treatment techniques here were a little more advanced than most plants have. Many of the current water systems are ineffective at removing phosphorus, but the treatment plants used in these studies were upgraded to secondary or tertiary. Plus they experimented with different combinations of treatments like chemical, biological, etc. And it makes sense that it really worked. Since the wastewater that comes from homes enters a treatment plant anyways, why not upgrade the power of the plant instead of trying to limit phosphorus at a minor source? Not to mention, studies show that upgrading treatment plants is also the most cost-effective method of improving water quality. But wait. If you'll recall, we just said that most of the P-load entering the water is from non-point sources. Yeah, the treatment can remove almost all the phosphorus entering the plant, but what's the point if most of it bypasses the plant? This is where further research is needed. One of the methods I read about was how wastewater diversion techniques could actually turn non-point sources into point sources. For example, a water system that collects runoff from farms or like water from a river with eroded phosphorus in it can be redirected into a plant before entering a lake. The feasibility and efficiency of turning non-point sources into point sources is where we need to focus our research. So as a general summary, we can see that the ban only reduced about 11% of P-load entering the plants and eventually the water. Recall that these basic plants are mostly unsuccessful at filtering out phosphate. This makes sense as detergents only contribute about 12.4% of P-load influent, but we can see that upgraded treatment plants are significantly effective at reducing effluent P-loads, about 75%, which is right around the level needed to reverse eutrophication, about 78%. So to improve our water quality and overall health, investing in upgraded treatment plants and wastewater diversion systems may be an excellent next step. Alright, these are my sources, so thanks for watching and listening.